Bullshit blazing, still my heart is blazing. If the words kill me, I don't need a new one. How dare you? Soon you will know. We already know the smell of the game. Can't you see I'm blazing? Still my heart is blazing. If the words kill me, I don't need a new one. How dare you? My time is my word. Your words will never let me disobey. That is bullshit blazing. Still my heart is blazing. If the words kill me, I don't need a new word. How dare you? Soon you will know. We already know the smell of the, know the smell of the, know the smell of the, know the smell of the game.
It is the most anticipated game in entertainment history.
Hello and welcome to the sequel to Halo Combat Evolved, Halo 2. Today I'll be using the PC port of the Master Chief Collection and try to stick to the original graphics and OST as close as I can, just like with the previous entry. And if I spent an ungodly amount of time with just Halo Combat Evolved, oh boy, Halo 2 makes that amount of time spent in Combat Evolved dwarf. Halo 2 took what I already loved from CE, amped up so much until Halo 3 expanded on a lot of 2's concepts and ideas. Couldn't really find anything better than that. Since a good chunk going into Halo 2 ended up on the cutting room floor due to Captain Uber Crunch, which I myself wouldn't find out until many years later. I also didn't know about E3 back then, so I wouldn't find out about Halo 2 until I got a magazine for, I want to say, Nickelodeon magazine, which made mention to Halo and Halo 2. About a year later, in 2004, while watching TV with my buddies, lo and behold, a Halo 2 ad pops up. To say that we were excited would be an understatement. To give visual to our plight around the time,
I need a job.
I was 10 when Halo 2 came around, okay? The hype thrusters were in overdrive, and Halo 2 entering my house is a moment I wish I could relive. Halo 2 would become the party game to play for every sleepover, every birthday party, and just about every weekend. Homework would take a bad seat to the point that I'd had to be pulled away from Halo 2, nearly dragging the console right behind me. Halo 2 is still a favorite of mine 20 years later, and would become the de facto game I played not only for the story hours on end. Halo 2's multiplayer would also change how I'd spent playing games with other people for a very big chunk of time. So, let's suit up in a new suit, get a new perspective on the conflict of Halo by becoming the Arbiter, and appreciate Johnson knowing what the ladies like.
Thanks for the tank. He never gets me anything.
Oh, I know what the ladies like.
And dig into just how good is Halo 2 and see if it's a worthy successor to the masterpiece of Halo Combat Evolved.
For one, I was laid off, so I don't work tomorrow, which is great because Halo 2 is and I'm done with school. I have no life. It's all about Halo.
try to imagine being around 10, the concept of sequels to games not being as readily known except for a good handful of games. Notably with the likes of Final Fantasy, and for me, because of the Final Fantasy games, I assumed that any games with sequels wouldn't be connected in their stories and would be drastically different to go with their new gameplay. So up to the release of Halo 2, I came up with various theories and speculations with friends at the time. Would it continue where Combat Evolved left off? Would the multiplayer be just as fun? Would it be better than Combat Evolved? So when Halo 2 dropped, I would not feel as excited for a game sequel till maybe Mass Effect 2 in comparison if we're using 2s. The story took the Halo universe into bolder directions while also putting hints to entice reading some of the books. Most notably, an example being how Johnson survived the Halo ring and came back to Earth with Chief and Cortana. In-game, he just says that it's classified, which is pretty funny. It also stirs up questions answered in the Halo novels.
So, Johnson, when you gonna tell me how you made it back home in one piece?
Sorry, Guns. It's classified.
My ass!
Even without the books, Halo 2 still works with how it presented a story that not only showed more of humanity with the UNSC, Halo 2 would show the Covenant side, with newest addition, the Arbiter, voiced by the legendary Keith fucking David, who delivers some fantastic lore to a new character and gives Chief competition for most badass character while delving into Arbiter's perspective, which made Halo come alive more than Combat Evolved.
I think it's about time we told the commander what's really going on.
Keith David montage. Go.
Jalapeno! 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 I live again!
Listen, we've got enough clout right now for one major bill, not both. What do you want me to push forward? Do you want to be the president who cured cancer or the president who solved world hunger? Imagine Outworld, free of slaves.
Over my dead body.
Today's the day, skullfucker.
I ain't no actor. I can't memorize this shit.
And Halo 2 even brought in more actors like Ron Perlman and Kevin Michael Richards, whose IMDb page just keeps going and going and going, and propelling actors Jen Taylor and Steve Downes to legendary levels, with Halo 2 showing off a more cinematic take for the series. 2 would then cement the series in gaming, along with one of the biggest hype campaigns that wouldn't be seen till maybe Halo 3 in size. Said by me, since I had no idea about any of this at the time. The gameplay would be similar and more snappy compared to Combat Evolved, and having physics to move objects in the world, which at the time for me was absolutely amazing. Visuals on the same console was also mind-blowing with how much of an upgrade Halo 2 was from Combat Evolved. This doesn't excuse the shortcomings of Halo 2, since it's become fairly well known that not only was the series not planned to be a trilogy at first, it's also been well documented that Halo 2 had what was called, at the time, the mother of all crunches. A notorious E3 trailer that didn't show off the game proper, mostly being smoke and mirrors. I didn't know about that, and in retrospect, knowing now, I gotta say that's kinda scummy. Also couldn't forget to mention the very abrupt ending. Thankfully, Halo 2 was still a massive achievement, and I still think it's one of the greatest games and sequels in my eyes. Halo 2 showed that video games could be both cinematic and fun to play. It sold the Xbox Live service almost single-handedly and broke records compared to some of the big movies of the time, notably the Pirates of the Caribbean movie at the time, Spider-Man 2, and Matrix Reloaded, and that was despite many cuts in development. Halo 2 was my gaming life. For me, and even with the original graphics and audio, I still love Halo 2 for what it does. And to see the remastered version with the anniversary, like with Combat Evolved, is also incredible. Seeing the before and after graphics is still pretty neat. The anniversary version even redid the cutscenes not only in graphics, but in choreography, making the game that was already cinematic for its time more so. Halo 2 also has many more characters to go with old ones that stick out from one another, with Chief and Cortana still being great with their back and forth.
Could we possibly make any more noise? I guess so.
The Arbiter is also fantastic for a new character from his perspective.
Quite a crowd.
If they came to hear me beg, they will be disappointed.
With admitting the new faction leader Tartarus bringing more death to the Halo universe more than in Combat Evolved.
Of this, they will take your head, Wembe man. Fool. They ordered me to do it.
I could not fully convey how much I loved Halo 2, not only at the time, and to this day. I still remember the LAN parties I'd have with friends for my birthday and over the weekends, the stream peeking during multiplayer, almost weekly playthroughs of the campaign with co-op, pizza parties with Mountain Dew consumption that'd be alarming by today's standards. I could honestly go on and on about Halo 2 making me such a happy camper for years, even Red vs. Blue being introduced to me during this time to boot, and how hilarious the series was. But now it's time for the gameplay and immersion of Halo 2 and some of the shortcomings the game unfortunately does have.
Dual wielding, 2 weapons at the same time, baby, yeah! We got many different combinations with the weapons. Let's go, Halo 2!
I thought like a 4-hour flight was pretty long coming from Los Angeles, but why did you lady? 12 hours! 12-hour flight from where?
From Israel!
I love you. I want to play it at midnight tonight. If they get a cab home, I'm playing that whole day. I only have 3 hours to sleep today.
Halo Nation, which is now over 5 million strong. It's interesting, unlike a lot of video games, it actually grew. It didn't explode and then diminish. You know, Halo Nation now, with it being Xbox Live on Halo 2, they just can't wait.
No other game does this. There's a million Xbox Live subscribers. There's 1.5 million Halo people who have this pre-ordered. It's going to go for 2.5 million copies. So that's going to bring Xbox Live at least another 1 million customers.
Like Combat Evolved, Halo 2 has players take on the Master Chief, whose abilities and functions are more or less the same as Combat Evolved. The biggest additions for Halo 2 is the ability to dual wield almost every weapon in the game that gives various utility to the expanded roster for the weaponry from both of the factions. Being able to hijack vehicles like a GTA game, and unlike Combat Evolved, there isn't a health system with the shields recharging faster this time. This leads to one of the issues of Halo 2 that, despite shields recharging faster, the amount of hits to death and shield drain is a bit lower than Combat Evolved, making attempts for a legendary run far more difficult than compared to Combat Evolved because of this particular feature. To give a more thorough example, here's the Act-Man.
I can think of no better way to illustrate and prove the ludicrous difficulty of Halo 2 than this. So, in Halo 1, it takes exactly 23 shots to kill you with a plasma rifle. Now, do you have any idea how many it takes in Halo 2? You want a hint? 6. 6 fucking shots, and you're dead. They shoot the guns faster too. A single burst can kill you in less than a second. What the flip yap is this? Warzone firefight? The exact time to kills I recorded just by standing still was 10.25 seconds for CE and 1.6 seconds for Halo 2. I mean, what in truth's name happened? Well, from what I understand, the development of Halo 2, as we all know, was hellish at best. So in a time crunch, Bungie realized the game wasn't difficult enough, but didn't have time to properly balance and tweak the number of enemies and how tough they were. So what they did was ramp up the lethality, as they didn't have time to go through every encounter to rebalance it. So what we got was a frustrating and difficult legendary experience.
I can't remember exactly where I heard it, but due to the hectic dev cycle for 2, the devs attempted balancing the campaign quickly due to deadlines making shields recharge faster in their attempt to balance it, which kind of worked. Sort of? Maybe? It's not too bad for the campaign at lower difficulties. The higher difficulties, though, would make that From Software game going a little hard on those Master Chiefs, buddy. Then there's the Arbiter, who has a similar moveset to Chief, but has cloaking tech to give stealth capabilities and increases his survivability. I will say the invisibility helps in a pinch when shields are low. The vehicles this time around also got some added features, notably Covenant vehicles being able to boost for more speed with the Ghost, using this same boost function to dodge fire with the Banshee, and even being able to drive the Wraith for the first time with the Covenant tank, and even the Spectre as a Warthog equivalent. On the other hand, the UNSC vehicles remained relatively the same, with some new additions being a Warthog variant with the Gauss cannon. Is it Gauss, or Gas cannon? I don't know. which has the mobility of the Warthog and destructive capabilities almost on par with the Scorpion tank. Though the vehicles are relatively the same, the biggest difference is that now all vehicles are destructible and explode when damaged enough. Even Covenant vehicles overload and explode similar to a plasma grenade. The controls are also snappier than Combat Evolved, making it easier to steer the vehicles, unless you're using the boost function, which does make control a lot more difficult. I couldn't say how many times I got yeeted from using boost and how often I laughed because of how ridiculous it was. The NPCs for the UNSC and Covenant also remain relatively the same, though the Covenant have new additions with the drones, these swarms of tiny enemies that use various weapons and fly around the battlefield, and the brutes being one of the most annoying enemies of Halo 2 with how much damage they take before being taken down. Aside from those two additions, the NPCs of Halo 2 are almost the same as Combat Evolved, but are just tweaked a bit, like the Hunters being a bit tougher to take down this time around, and the Flood being a bit easier to defeat in comparison, even if some of them have shields this time around. The Covenant are still a highlight with the variety they bring, and use different colors to show if they're tougher all over again, though they get pretty unfair on higher difficulties, especially the brutes. Then there's the weapons, and Halo 2 looked at Combat Evolved and said, that's cute. New weapons like the battle rifle, the sentinel beam, the brute shot grenade launcher, the beam rifle sniper, using the energy sword for the first time.
Just happens to function like a key in very specific situations.
Or it's a key all the time, and when you stick it in people, it unlocks their death.
And the fuel rod giving more options to the arsenal that really keeps combat fresh in Halo 2, and that's only some examples. There is a bit more in Halo 2 by itself, but the new additions are tweaks to old weapons. In canon, they're actually new weapons. The rocket launcher now being able to lock onto vehicles and fire homing rockets, and the shotgun getting tweaked a little bit. Or enhanced weapons in the case of the plasma rifle having a brute enhanced red variant that fires faster and harder but overheats faster, and a blue sentinel beam equivalent, alongside taking out some weapons that were in Halo Combat Evolved. Most notably was the assault rifle, which I missed until Halo 3 came out. A majority of Halo 2 makes tweaks to old weapons and adds more weapons and vehicles to its pool. And that's not mentioning the cut content for Halo 2. According to Halopedia and other sources I did find, for example, was a silenced SMG, flamethrower, and brute grenades, notably, and they were added into Halo 3 and later games. There are also vehicles that include the Mongoose, tank variants, more Warthog types outside of the Gauss, and even the Falcon. Some of these also got added into late Halo titles as well. There were even cut enemy types, or a full-on level that did get changed to a pretty badass cutscene with the Covenant ship. I love Halo 2 a lot, but that doesn't change that it does have issues when looking into the meat of its core features. The multiplayer also got a lot of love that helped Halo 2 for years, though according to devs, they didn't get as much into it as they originally wanted to add. They did add more coloring options and being able to play as elites for the first time that function just like the Spartan, which was pretty neat. Halo 2 even got a map pack disc later on, adding more maps to the game, and for me at the time was unheard of back then. Thankfully, Halo 2's multiplayer is still pretty fair, with how players are still fairly even with occasional power-ups that can be found in some maps. And of course, I can't forget the music in Halo 2, whereas Combat Evolved had a more Gregorian chant with occasional guitar riffs. Halo 2 comes off as Doom 2016's daddy with its mix of heavy rock in there with some rock bands like Incubus, Breaking Benjamin, and Hoobastank. Blow Me Away by Breaking Benjamin still kicks ass when it plays in the campaign. So when doing the various fights from the Scarab battle, wandering through Delta Halo, flying through the skies as Arbiter, or even traveling as Arbiter, Halo 2's soundtrack amps up or sets the mood very well for the campaign. The Anniversary Edition also has a new soundtrack to go with the visuals, which is alright. It just doesn't hit as hard as the original since blowing away isn't included, unfortunately. Despite its shortcomings and lack of polish in areas, Halo 2 still holds up despite them. Halo 2 also had similar occurrences like Combat Evolved being able to break the game a bit and being able to get out of the main gameplay areas and explore to find some secrets like the stalls, now available by default in the Master Chief Collection, or just some fun things that can't normally be found in these out-of-bounds areas. The levels are a bit smaller and a bit shorter compared to Combat Evolved, unless playing on Legendary, which loves flicking the nuts. The variety they have is much more varied compared to Combat Evolved, thankfully. Combat Evolved did a copy-paste in the later half of the campaign, and 2 also lacked more open-world areas compared to Combat Evolved. Now, there's the story, which is still good, and even though it's an abrupt ending, it is still fantastic to experience, and still holds up.
On the blood of our fathers, on the blood of our sons, we swore to uphold the covenant, even to our dying breath.
Dear humanity, we regret being alien bastards. We regret coming to Earth. And we most definitely regret the Corps just blew up our raggedy-ass fleet. Hoorah!
They have shed our brother's blood, and for that they must die.
Sir, permission to leave the station.
For what purpose, Master Chief?
To give the Covenant back their bomb.
Permission granted.
We shall grind them into dust and continue our march to glorious salvation.
Get tactical, Marines!
This one is machine and nerve, and has its mind concluded. This one is but flesh and faith, and is the more deluded.
Unlike Halo Combat Evolved, Halo 2 has more of a synopsis of Combat Evolved's events up to Halo 2 in its manual, and like usual, I will include a timestamp to skip the story if spoilers are concerned, and wait a little bit. Almost immediately after Combat Evolved's events is Thel Vadim being put on trial for the destruction of Halo while switching to the Master Chief, being honored for his actions in Combat Evolved. This shows the parallels between Chief and the eventual Arbiter, with Chief being honored and commended, opposed to Arbiter being disgraced and discouraged. What follows is a split perspective campaign that I had no idea about, and for me to see the other side of the war was a tad jarring at the time. With Chief as him and Cortana with the UNSC attempting to stop an invasion on Earth, leading to Chief chasing a Prophet, one of the hierarchs of the Covenant, coming across another Halo ring.
Ma'am, there's an object coming into view now.
Cortana, what exactly am I looking at? That is another Halo.
Say what?
And for the time, that was insane to know for sure. There were more rings in the galaxy. While on Delta Halo, Chief is able to take down the Prophet of Regret when he encounters a new creature that had been lurking in the ring, the Grave Mind. The Grave Mind is the intelligence behind the Flood, turning these stereotypical zombies into a more menacing threat that is far more dangerous than meets the eye. Chief and Arbiter even encounter each other while they're held by the Gravemind. Backing up a bit is Arbiter's perspective. After his trial and shaming, he's given another chance to become the Arbiter, the Hand of the Prophets, and is given the task to find and silence a heretic to the Covenant. While on mission, the Arbiter encounters 343 Guilty Spark, who survived the previous reign's destruction, and had told the heretic the true meaning of the Great Journey and Rings. This encounter begins to sow doubt into the Arbiter and what the Covenant and Prophets are doing, and after the Chief takes down Regret, Arbiter sees tensions rise within the Covenant as the Brutes take on the Honor Guard of the Prophets, while also trying to work with the Brute leader Tartarus, who assists Arbiter with the resurging Flood on the Delta Ring, running into Johnson and Miranda Keys to secure the key for the ring, right before Arbiter is betrayed by Tartarus under orders from the Prophets. Back to their encounter with the Gravemind, Arbiter and Chief are sent by it to two places to search for the now missing key: High Charity and the Delta Ring. Chief's mission on High Charity to take down the remaining Prophets leads him to give chase of the Prophet of Truth, with Cortana having to stay behind with the Flood commandeering a nearby UNSC ship to invade High Charity, taking it over, while a civil war is occurring. Arbiter on Delta Halo ends up seeing the process of the brutes decimating his fellow elites and having to cut through an army of former Covenant comrades and having unexpected allies, eventually teaming up with Johnson to take down Tartarus and stopping the Halo ring from firing. After stopping Tartarus, Arbiter, Johnson, and Keyes are told that there's an ARC, a central control for the rings that's ready to fire, and Chief is on board the Prophet of Truth's ship en route to Earth to finish the fight. And then Halo 2 abruptly ends there. I wish I was kidding.
I think that this will be one of those things when we look back 10 years from now, they'll look back and say Halo 2 was one of those seminal moments when it shipped. Millions of people then said, I can now play a movie rather than watch a movie. And that's what it really feels like.
Don't get me wrong, Halo 2 is by no means a bad game, and considering that the game had a terrible dev cycle, smoke and mirrors gameplay at the E3 of the time, and left things on the cutting room floor, it's still a massive achievement for the game. Halo 2 took the series into new directions with a new playable character, more emphasis on the story, better characterizations, and packing in more things to do not only for the campaign, but also the multiplayer being far more expansive and almost single-handedly sold the Xbox Live service on its own. Halo 2 is important, at least to me, because it gave me so much fun outside the campaign with how hilarious and fun the multiplayer could get. But with hindsight and knowing what I know now, I can't say it's not disappointing that the crunch that Bungie had for the time led them to downsizing from their original vision by such a degree. At the end of it all, Halo 2 came out swinging and became a massive success, with a lot of the concepts that ended up cut from Halo 2 making their appearance in later entries of the series. And despite lack of polish in areas, such as the campaign difficulty being a bit wonky at times and pretty unfair majority, I still hold Halo 2 in high regard, not only as one of the best games of all time, but also one of the best sequels. That still holds up to this day, and the Anniversary Edition gives a great facelift to a classic title, and even if just playing the campaign, I still think Halo 2 is worth experiencing. And since the Master Chief Collection has everything up to Halo 4 available on Xbox and Steam to experience right away, I gotta say, the wait for Halo 3 after the abrupt ending of 2 was agonizing to finally, eventually see the rest of the story of Halo. And though Halo 2 has issues, Halo 2 is still a very good game. Its story is enthralling, the new characters help make the jank in places not be so bad, and the gameplay is still near perfection to go with an even more impressive OST that ties it into it. Before leaving, here's some sellout stuff. Leave a comment, a like, or even subscribe for more content similar to this. Did I leave out anything important? Is Halo 2 not as good as I make it out to be? Does Halo 2 still hold up despite the flaws and the abrupt ending? Or am I talking out my ass? Does Keith David just add too much badassery to the game? Hopefully I was able to answer just how good Halo 2 is. And with that, what does Commander Hood ask the Master Chief to end this video?
Got a new contact, unknown classification.
It isn't one of ours. Take it out.
This is Spartan 117.
Can anyone hear me? Over.
Isolate that signal. Master Chief, you mind telling me what you're doing on that ship?
Sir, finishing this fight.
때문에 불새는 힘에 비어라
Silence fills the empty grave now that I have gone. But my mind is not at rest, for questions linger on. I will ask, and you will answer.
All right. Shoot.